So in my two previous MacBook reviews, I said that you don't need a powerful computer to edit and render video with DaVinci Resolve. I stand with what I said, but I really did enjoy my time with the M3 Pro Macbook Pro, even if it was a $4,000 computer and not really a realistic buy if you have to pay for your own hardware. But I realized I made a mistake there. I didn't have a bar on the graph for the M2 lines of CPU because I didn't test them. So we should solve this problem by testing the base M2 Pro with a CPU with 10 core and a GPU with 16 core. So let's review it.
Okay, so let's do a quick unboxing first. I did buy this Mac as new. It was basically sealed from refurbished retailers. You can see here that there's a sticker saying N for it, or brand new computer. The color is space gray and it's the base. You have MagSafe charger, but I prefer using a USB-C that I leave on the counter versus with a multi-USB A and C charger. It comes with a 67 watt charger. There's a next 96 watt option for the charger if you get the upgrade version of the computer with 12 core and 18 core GPU for the M3 Pro. You can see here that the computer is fully sealed and there was still the paper on the display. Let's talk about the spec of the computer I tested. My base MacBook Air had 7 core CPU and an 8 core GPU with 8 gig of RAM and a 256 SSD. Then the computer I'm testing today is a 10 core CPU, 16 core GPU, and 512 gigs for the hard drive and a 16 gig of RAM. And the $4,000 computer for the M3 Pro that I tested had a 12 core CPU, a 18 core GPU, and 38 gig of RAM. So spec wise, it should fall performance wise in the middle of the between both computer, but we'll need to test that next. You can see here that the 1TB hard drive of the M3 Pro is 2 times faster than the 512 gig drive. I really wish that Apple would advertise the speed of the drive on the Apple Store, but it's still plenty of speed for my use case. The mini LED screen is still amazing. I think it's 100 nit more on the M3 Pro. So they upgrade a little the screen. Okay, Geekbench 6.3 is next. For the single core, we had a score of 2691. While it was 3112 for the M3 Pro. For the multi-core, it was a score of 12,494. Versus a score of 15,618 for the M3 Pro. So you have a 15.6% more performance in the single core thread, and you have a 25% more performance for the M3 Pro versus the M2 Pro. But we need to remember that it's the upgraded version of the CPU and the GPU, and that this computer costs 2.5 times more that I paid. Cinebench R23 is next. We got a multi-core score of 11,764 for the multi-core and a score of 1615 for the single core with a MP ratio of 7.28. You get an increase of performance of almost 30% for the M3 Pro on the multi-core side, and for the single core, the single core you get around 15% performance increase. I took my R36S project and rendered it on the M2 MacBook Pro. It only took 4 seconds longer than the M3 MacBook Pro. I then did the basic candlelight test. It was rendering between 17 to 18 frames second on the M2 Pro, while it was rendering 15 to 16 frames second on the M3 Pro. Okay, so gaming is next. I'll always start by Divinity Original Sin because I've been playing this game for, 10 years. Of course, it's turn-based, so everything played normally with the graphic at ultra and the native resolution of the screen. I couldn't see any problem or artifact there. I then did the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark. You can see a frame rate around 25-26 at the native resolution. I then lowered the resolution to 1920 by 1200 just to see what kind of performance we would get. You then get around 50 frames by second, which is close, and sometimes it would go like near 60. But it's only part of the story here. I try again Resident Evil 4 demo, and I could not shoot straight for the love of me. It's like there's always some kind of a lag every time you try to aim. Now, my first idea was like, well, I can just plug the laptop to an external monitor and see if it's better. But then I realized how a stupid idea it was. If I'm going to my office and plug the laptop into a monitor, I'm next to my gaming PC that have a 7800 X3D and a 3070. At this point, I should just game on the gaming PC. No, I still think it's frustrating. Apple marketing is pushing game mode and like the new Metal 3 framework, and the laptop can actually render the game very well, but because the monitor response time is still an issue, even if the game look great and play amazingly, every time you you try to input something with a controller or the keyboard, you still feel the lag. So in the end, it doesn't really matter until Apple use a screen that is more gamer friendly. But at the same time, it is a computer for creative persons, so I don't really think gaming is the main focus. So where does it leave us? Well, first, I really like the computer. This is where I bought one for myself. The mini LED screen is amazing, and you have a higher resolution than the M1 Macbook Air. The battery life is great. They quote around 12 hours of web browsing, and I can see that the battery life is a little shorter than my MacBook Air, but at the same time, for the trade-off of getting the screen and the port, it's well worth the trade-off. Talking about port, that's a big positive. Having a HDMI 2.1 port, being able to plug it directly, having three USB 4 or Thunderbolt 4 port, so you have option, and having a SD card reader, it's amazing. When I was switching a lot of ROM, and I'm gonna test soon 2 other Sony camera, so having the SD card and be able to plug it directly to the laptop without using some kind of hub is a good thing. The performance also great. I'm always impressed how DaVinci Resolve is so quick to render on the Mac versus a PC. I want eventually to build a PC that will give me the same rendering time, but I get a feeling it's going to be quite expensive. The noise is also very well controlled. I don't really hear the fan while I'm doing rendering. But the laptop is not perfect. The first thing is the price. You do pay Apple tax to be able to have a 512 gig SSD versus a 256 and to get 16 gig instead of 8 in 2024. This is insane to me. I also find the weight as a negative. I'm so used to grab my MacBook Air at one end and just like having it in my laptop in my backpack. But I feel this computer is way heavier. It's not a big deal. Like I said, if you put both next to each other and say which one you want, I would grab the MacBook Pro every time. And the last thing is the heat. If I'm doing rendering or playing a game on it for testing, it gets really warm in the middle of the keyboard. And it was warm enough at that one point I had to take it off myself because I was on the couch and I didn't have a tray or anything. But the laptop got so warm that I needed to take it off. Not enough to burn myself, but it was just surprising. So where does it leave me? Well, I did buy the laptop, so clearly I liked it. I think, honestly, like being able to sell my MacBook to a friend and buying this one for maybe $1,000 upgrade is worth it for me because I know I'm going to continue to do video with it. Having Wi-Fi 6.E for faster transfer, having a HDMI 2.1 port, being able to plug more than one monitor, being able to have a SD card reader, all those things add up for a professional. So in the end, I didn't need to upgrade, but I'm glad I did. Thanks for watching.